Thank you, Nena. Let's quickly check. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. I'm Metodi, and today we'll talk about a real-time interoperable use case in the DeFi realm. So before we start about me, I'm doing product development at Nolus. So as a product developer, I'm working closely with our talented dev team, helping out with things like documentation, governance, or conceptualizing new ideas for extending the protocol's offerings. On the Nolus Discord server, you can find me mostly. So I've joined this team roughly 2 years ago, so nearly been part of it nearly since the very beginning. These past 2 years have been filled with challenges, many of which we've overcome, while others we continue to tackle. And before we dive into what this year in particular had, give a brief overview of what Nolus is and what it aims to solve in the Web3 world. So Nolus is an app chain, a cross-chain protocol powered by IBC and interchain accounts built with the Cosmos SDK and the Cosmos Wasm smart contract platform. It utilizes established decentralized exchanges like the Osmosis DEX on Osmosis and Astroport on Neutron, with many more to come. And Nolus offers a novel DeFi solution that provides greater asset exposure with a lower risk of liquidation and a focus on minimizing liquidity fragmentation. And how does it work? On Nolus, you have lenders and borrowers. Originally, lenders could only provide stable coins and earn back in rewards in the form of real yield in those set stable coins, and with additional NOS incentives on top. With the recent updates, volatile currencies have also been included as lending options, but will the borrowing aspect is what's interesting and what sets Nolus apart from other lending solutions out there, like let's say Compound, Aave, or their respective deposit, and we call it a down payment. And the interesting part here is that they can borrow up to 150% of that deposit's value from the stablecoins lending pools that I mentioned. And what the system does in the smart contract instance, transfer those assets over to a supported network via IBC, and using interchain accounts, it would swap them to a desired output asset. And this effectively creates a cross-chain margin long position on that given asset with a fixed interest rate. So up until recently, borrowers could only long assets, but that a bit, as mentioned a bit later on in the presentation. So this was the short info on Nolus. So now let's get to the core topic of this presentation, and that's the roadmap for this year, 2024. I'll go over technical challenges that we faced as one of the first protocols to do real-time cross-chain communication via IBC and interchain accounts, and then we'll finalize with the goals we have set for the remainder of this year. Needless to say, it's quite packed. So, in terms of launch of the second major liquidity hub, which is the Astroport DEX on Neutron, and with this, users on Nolus were able to open lease positions, which are borrow positions as mentioned, on Nolus with assets from Neutron, such as NTRN. We then focused on the contract that has one instance per lending pool. And the goal here is for that reserve contract to act as a backstop for potential bad debt in the system due to, let's say, untimely events. We then implemented in-app swaps powered by SkipGo. And with this, users do not have to bridge between different Cosmos or non-Cosmos chains, swap on various DEXs, only to have to bring back those assets to Nolus to use. But they can do everything at once, in one go, from the already familiar interface of the Nolus DApp. In addition, all swap fees apply additional swap fees applied on top go to the reserve contracts I mentioned just now. The last key feature that we've introduced is shorting. So yeah, we've arrived at the point of the presentation. Know that borrowers on Nolus can effectively open cross-chain margin long positions on supported assets. Our team realized at some point that this model could effectively be turned around, and this happens. So lenders now are able to not only deposit stable coins, but volatile assets as well, single-sidedly. Volatile assets like, let's say, Atom, Osmo, or NTRN, they would be able to earn rewards in real yield in the form of those incentives on top. Pretty familiar. So the borrowing side, for the borrowers, they can now open cross-chain margin short positions, which means that they again provide a deposit, take out a loan of up to 150% of that deposit's value from the new volatile, simply transfer those over to a supported DEX via IBC and again swap them via ICA, but only this time to USDC. So now effectively when the price of the loaned asset drops, the borrowers need less USDC to pay back their debt, effectively banking in the rest as profit. So this on mainnet, we still have work to do on the UI front, but it's coming up pretty soon. And with these integrations, borrowers now have a bidirectional market exposure on supported assets on Nolus, and this paves the way to introducing new complex DeFi strategies, and we're really looking forward to seeing what the community will. Now let's go over the challenges that we had to face or solve or optimize during this year. And for that, let us familiarize ourselves a bit more with the structure of a DeFi lease. So DeFi, whenever a borrower wants to open a position, they interact with a so-called factory smart contract that is in turn responsible for instantiating a separate smart contract instance for that specific instance, does the heavy lifting for the user, meaning it gathers both the deposit by the borrower and the loan by the system, registers a separate interchain account on the corresponding host or destination chain, transfers over the assets via IBC on that chain. And now interchain accounts actions are performed via a separate pair of IBC channels, which are ordered by default. Ordered means that whenever there needs to be a recovery process because the channel would get closed, and this recovery process simply opens a new pair of IBC channels. And in contrast, the regular IBC transfer channels, which you're all familiar with, are unordered by default, meaning that whenever your transfer doesn't go through for some reason and it times out, the channel doesn't get closed. At some point, the activity on Nolus spiked significantly, which meant that as more and more lease positions or borrow positions got opened, more and more interchain accounts channels got respectfully also. Layers are third-party services which act basically as postmen between two or more different Cosmos chains, transferring the packets. So with this burden process, because they needed to scan through all of the existing channels, and this scanning process in turn is necessary such that new ICA channels could get opened. And challenges like these allowed us as a team to significantly improve the infrastructure that Nolus is relying on and make it more scalable. And there is a new IBC lineup 8 that makes interchain accounts channels unordered. This means that there will be no more of this recovery process that I mentioned, which in turn would significantly boost the opening and closing time of lease positions. We have already seen significant progress on that front since the launch of Nolus last year. Nolus launched, it took around 1 minute and 30 seconds to open a lease position, for example, whereas now it takes around 50 seconds to a minute. And we as a team have the intention of continue reducing this period such that it becomes near instant for the end user. We have also proposed and collaborated on the idea of IBC multiplexing with the IBC team. It would mean that multiple interchain accounts would be able to use a single unordered channel, and this would effectively eliminate the relayer burden I was referring to earlier, while still keeping the independence of the borrow positions. So now that we went over the challenges, let us have a look at what awaits later on in the year. It's called the Nolus Watcher. So the goal of the Nolus Watcher is to enhance the user experience with strategies and machine learning powered functionalities. The goal is to offer maximum convenience by abstracting. And think of this as a completely optional assistant. You can either rely on it or not. I mentioned strategies. So the first one that would be coming up would be direct debit, that users would be able to give allowances such that the system could use those for automatic interest repayments. Currently, interest on lease positions is due once every. Users wouldn't need to manually repay their interest. And also they could take advantage of so-called liquidation safeguards. This means that if the loan-to-value ratio goes up significantly for a given position, while the user is not looking at the charts, for example, and our team of data scientists is also working on a statistical data companion to assist users in analyzing market trends, which would be especially useful before a given user opens a long or short on a given asset. Last but not least, we are looking forward to bringing out Project X. And Project X is a scaling solution that aims to extend the current model of Nolus to the EVM, Solana VM, and other out VM environments. And the goal is to do so using need to rewrite the entire code base in another smart contract language, let's say Solidity, and they have to deploy it on those set chains, only to cause liquidity fragmentation, which we're already trying. Users on Nolus would gain access to many assets tied to different ecosystems with deep liquidity pools, while taking advantage of the powerful features of Nolus, such as greater exposure with lower risk. So there's been a lot to unpack in this presentation. To sum up, Nolus is highly committed to advancing DeFi through interoperable and scalable technologies. We're looking forward to continue collaborating with the IBC team on extending the existing ICA functionality. There is also constant ongoing development of user watcher that I presented a bit earlier. Also, our dev team is actively researching new avenues for expanding the protocol. And on that note, there is a current ongoing ideathon with Dora Hacks that aims to bring Nolus beyond Cosmos. It's running, I believe, until the end of September. Research and development efforts on that front. This was everything from my side. Thank you a lot for the attention, and do not forget to follow us on our socials and join in the discussions yourself. We value user feedback a lot, and we are constantly aiming to improve on that front.